Now that we've had a quick run through of every single gun in the game and where it stands in my rankings, we're going to go category by category to give you guys a little more in-depth look on why some of these guns are ranked as high as they are. First up, we got our top 10 assault rifles in the game. Not every one of these lists is going to have 10 guns, but given that there's already 5 assault rifles inside of our top 10 guns, it doesn't really make a whole lot of sense to break down what our top 5 assault rifles would be, because you guys kind of already know that. Let me know down in the comments which category you guys want to see next, and we'll hop into it. First, we got our honorable mentions, guns that are close to being meta viable, but just 1 or 2 buffs away. The LK24 is super solid, but doesn't quite have the bullet spread accuracy as some of the alternatives. The BK57 recently got a buff that makes it feel super solid, but just doesn't have any one thing that makes it pop. The EM2 is really powerful with its 3-tap potential and ability to 2-tap to the head, but struggles because of bullet speed and mobility. And the Man of War is very easy to use when you line up your shots, but has a slower rate of fire and worse mobility, making it tougher to use. Now, hopping in at number 10 is one that I know is definitely a community favorite, largely because of how fast it shoots. The M13 has received a couple of buffs over the past couple of seasons that I think make it solid enough to be at number 10 on our list. One of the things holding it back is the fact that it's a lot more effective if you've got the mythic version. There's a lot of really solid free-to-play options on this list, which is part of the reason that it's not any higher. With that being said, it's got great range, and like I said previously, great rate of fire. If you're able to land 1 headshot in the first damage range, you're able to drop it down to a 4-shot to kill, which makes it really, really fast. But unfortunately, there aren't any other multipliers that are able to drop that time to kill. I've started messing around with attachments for the M13 a little more, and I realized because of how much vertical recoil it has that it does help in some scenarios to have a little bit less on mobility and more on recoil control, which is the reason we switched from the no stock to the skeleton stock and also threw on an operator grip. Next up, we got another gun that once again is very, very solid regardless of whether or not you have the mythic, but it really does put it over the top if you do have that variant. Kilo 141 was meta for a while in COD Mobile, and while I would still say it's very, very viable, it doesn't have quite as many upsides as some of the other guns on this list. One of the more recent buffs that it got did make it a little bit easier to 3-tap with upper body shots, but once again, it's not something that's going to be super consistent. It does have pretty high vertical recoil and not the best bullet spread accuracy in the game. With that said, it has a super solid rate of fire that makes it pretty forgiving when you miss shots, so it's definitely worth a try. I've given my mythic gun build a lot of times for the Kilo 141, but haven't given away a lot of free-to-play builds, so if you guys want one that is incredibly accurate, might struggle a little bit with mobility, but definitely worth it, give this one a try. Next on our list, some of you might be surprised to see the AK-47 cracking its way in. This is a gun that's gotten progressively better and better, given the fact that in the early days of COD Mobile, this is not a gun that was ever used on the multiplayer side of things. It has ridiculously good starting bullet spread accuracy, so you can really afford to completely build it out to range stack as much as possible. It's one of those ARs that also has the ability to 2-tap with a headshot, putting it to a degree in the same category as the HVK, and has gotten some solid upper body multipliers that make it capable of 3-tapping on a pretty consistent basis. To be honest, if I was to pick an AR that I felt like would be an ideal meta that all the rest of the guns should regress back toward, it would probably be the AK-47. Like I said before, the AK-47 has ridiculously good base bullet spread accuracy, so I'm alright giving away a little bit of BSA, rocking a skeleton stock and a monolithic to gain some mobility and some range. Next up, we have the Grau. This is one that was in our top 10 guns for quite a while, and the main reason that it moved outside is just because so many other guns got buffed as hard as they did. While the Grau doesn't have a ton of downsides, it also doesn't have any major huge upsides either. It's one of the more well-rounded options on the list, not having terrible recoil or bullet spread accuracy issues. It's got really good mobility for an AR and a lot of different ways you can build it out, and it's a solid free-to-play option because the iron sights do change with the barrels that you use, and the Archangel barrel is the best option out of all of them, which coincidentally enough has the best iron sights as well. For our Grau build, not a whole lot has changed since our recent builds. Very solid all around with solid range. Next up, we got the KN-44. This has been my favorite assault rifle in COD Mobile for a while. I felt like it was a top option, but maybe lacked a little bit up until the recent buff that it received that makes the upper body multipliers that much easier to achieve a 3-shot. It already had amazing bullet spread accuracy, really solid mobility for an assault rifle, and a crazy amount of range stack that makes it so the first damage range covers the majority of the map in most scenarios. It doesn't have the best rate of fire in the game, but for an accurate assault rifle main, this is definitely one you're going to want to try. Because the KN-44 is one of the better mobility assault rifles, I like to build it a little bit more for maximum bullet spread accuracy and range. Even though you lose out on some of that mobility, you definitely see big upsides, especially given how long the gun's first damage range is. For the rest of the builds, you guys can check out our top 10 guns. If you want full explanations, I'll make sure that we still have screenshots up, but the majority of these you guys guys have already heard. The Oden, having previously gotten some buffs that make its 2-tap consistency a lot better, is for sure a solid option, but it's definitely for a particular type of player, because if you're not accurate, those missed shots are going to be really, really punishing. And while the Oden definitely is better with the mythic version, it also has some really solid variants, like its first battle pass version, that have really clean iron sights, so you're not really going to be at a huge disadvantage if you don't have the mythic. Its 2-tap consistency is easily its biggest upside, but also has the ability to 3-tap at long range, which, while it is solid, you have to keep in mind has a very slow rate of fire, so you got to be really accurate. Up next is the gun that for the past month or so has actually been the competitive meta in COD Mobile. When I say the competitive meta, that just means that this is the gun that most pro players are using, but you do have to keep in mind that is largely in part due to the fact that there are a lot of top tier guns with some of their major attachments that are restricted because of how overpowered they are. The Type 19, for all intents and purposes, is basically just an upgraded version of the Grau. It doesn't have any one thing that it's really, really good at, but it has great bullet spread accuracy, has better 3-tap consistency than the Grau has, and in my opinion has a much cleaner mythic version than the Grau has as well. I will say the iron sights on it are less than ideal. I would recommend running a red dot, but mainly just because there's only 4 primary attachments that you really need to be using to have this at its absolute best. After that, we've got a gun that was at number 1 on our list for a really long time. The HVK is still a solid option, and some people would still argue that it is top 2 on this list. I would say primarily because of a lack of really good free-to-play options and not the best iron sights in the world, combined with the fact that it did also get a nerf last season, so that it's now no longer able to 2-tap to the head in the second damage phase, make it a little bit more difficult to use for the average player. With that being said, it has the potential to 3-tap to the upper body. Its headshot multipliers are still crazy. The only major downside is the fact that the large cal mag is a little bit limited on ammo, which means accuracy is going to be that much more important. At number 2, I don't think anybody will be surprised to see the DRH. Despite the fact that the number 1 gun on this list is completely broken, you'll still see a decent number of DRHs in play in rank this season, because number 1, even the base version has really clean iron sights. Number 2, it's got great mobility, great bullet spread accuracy, great damage, really easy 3-tap consistency. There's not really a whole lot of downsides for the DRH other than the fact that it simply isn't the gun that's number 1 on the list, which is the BP50. Anyone who's played ranked at all this season has likely seen a decent number of 5 stacks all using the BP50. I would argue, due to a combination of SBMM and how dominant this gun is, this is arguably the most broken meta in COD Mobile history. With rate of fire attachments, its 4-tap time to kill, which is pretty consistent, is 180 milliseconds. Its 5-tap time to kill is still faster than the majority of the other guns in the game, and its 5-tap consistency goes out to a ridiculous range, combined with the fact that it has very little recoil. Even the base version of this, which doesn't have the best iron sights, will still shred any other gun in the game. The gun quite literally has no downsides. There's no reason not to use it, and I don't say this often, but COD Mobile, it's time for a nerf. For the BP50, the only change that we have from that in our top 10 guns build is that we now run the 60-round drum mag instead of the 30-round, because that is one of the attachments that got nerfed. That's gonna be it for the video, though. Hope you guys enjoy. Once again, let me know down in the comments which category you guys want to see next, and I'll catch you guys in the next one.